Hi, I'm Jeremy Pollack and welcome back to Conflict Resolution for Violent Interactions. In the last video, we went over concepts and techniques around situational awareness, pre-interaction assessments, and pre-conflict interactions, all for our #1 goal of maintaining peace before any conflict occurs. If our pre-conflict techniques don't work though, and the individual for whatever reason decides to approach you to have an aggressive conversation, then we go into some conflict resolution techniques for a level 1 conflict, also called reactive information gathering. A level 1 conflict is when one or more parties react to a perceived threat and are trying to gain more information to determine if threat, you, poses real danger and warrants defensive action, how the threat might react to an action, and what the threat thinks of the situation, if you respect him or not. So don't think of this person at level 1 as an attacker yet. Think of him or her instead as a defender. They're acting in defense of themselves or of what they perceive to be a threat, even though they may not even be aware of why they feel aggressive. But as practitioners of conflict resolution, we can stay aware of why and address the situation peacefully and appropriately. We need to get them to realize on a deep level they're not being threatened. Level 1 is still in the talking phase, and it means that the person has not gotten into your personal space or crossed your personal boundaries, which is basically a touching distance. They're just feeling defensive and are gathering some information in a potentially aggressive or angry manner. So at level 1, we can use techniques to diffuse a conflict peacefully before any physical violence occurs. Depending on the situation, there are generally 3 approaches that work. Now the first is to disengage. In other words, refuse to engage and simply walk away. With a straight face, not condescending or insincere, you simply say, "I don't know what you're talking about, excuse me," and leave. You might want to try looking bored or completely reactionless, but again, not in a condescending way. Keep the individual in your periphery as you exit. Now, if you'd rather not leave where you are and just make peace, you can try a second strategy, which is to offer a confused apology. When the person approaches you with a challenge question, like, "Why are you looking at me?" and you really don't know what he's talking about, express that. If you do and you made a mistake, play dumb. Evince your confusion and then apologize innocently. "I didn't realize I was doing that. Sorry about that." This in all likelihood will diffuse the situation, unless the person's looking for an excuse to fight or he or she is extremely insecure. If all this fails, or if the particular situation doesn't warrant these strategies, or if you're genuinely concerned, you can always attempt the third approach, which is acknowledge and support. This strategy is highly effective in all of life's conflicts, not only in potentially violent situations. It takes the most practice, but I suggest everyone learn this way of communicating. With this strategy, our attention to human needs comes into play. Remember in our first video of the series, I said that in the case of a stranger who reactively becomes aggressive, we're going to make the assumption that the person feels his needs for safety and or respect are being threatened. Now, in relieving the perception of threat towards safety and respect, there are 5 elements of speech that we focus on when interacting with an aggressive defensive person. Our goal during a level 1 conflict is to get the defender to calm down and realize that he or she is safe and respected, and so no longer has to be defensive. This way we might resolve the conflict peacefully. So the 5 elements of speech to be aware of when diffusing a level 1 conflict by way of acknowledge and support are as follows. First, no blame or accusations of wrongdoing. The moment an individual uses the word "you" in a dispute, blame has usually been placed. Statements like "you did this to me" or "you made me feel this way" imply wrongness and accusation. There's no quicker way to verbally ignite someone's defenses than to make that person wrong or bad. Even if they really did something wrong, and especially if they know they did, most people will become defensive and then emotionally and possibly irrational at the placement of an accusation. So even if they are accusing you of doing something wrong, don't defensively feed that back to them. Instead, make your statements about yourself. Use the word "I" in explaining your position, and leave the word "you" out of it altogether. For example, rather than saying, "You must have misunderstood me," which implies wrongness on the other person's end, reword to say something like, "I must have not been clear," or "I must have given off the wrong impression." If this is the case, an apology is always a nice thing to give. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that." Now, the exception to this rule of using the word "you" in a dispute is when you're using "you" to either ask what he or she needs or to acknowledge the other person's feelings. And that brings us to our second element in resolving a level 1 conflict. Listen, repeat, and agree before explaining. Humans have a fundamental need to know that they matter, and this directly relates to each of us feeling heard. Don't dismiss someone who feels defensive. Don't ignore their feelings or just wash over their obvious emotional state. Do your best to acknowledge their feelings and concerns and empathize with them, rather than becoming angry yourself or reacting defensively. Show them you're listening by repeating back the important parts of what they said, and find something to agree on. Show them that you agree that what they're saying and how they're feeling is important. You don't have to agree that it's true, just that it's important and you're taking it seriously. This immediately delivers a message of respect. If you were them and saw you doing whatever it is they have a problem with, imagine how you might feel. Make them realize that you are really getting it. This gets you to a place of agreement immediately, which is essentially cooperation, finding something you can agree on. Before defending your position, listen to them, acknowledge their feelings and concerns, and agree that they're important. You can explain your position after acknowledging their feelings, but try not to follow your acknowledgement with a but. For instance, I would be angry too if someone did that to me. Let me assure you though, that was not my intention at all. No but let me assure you, because but seems to negate your acknowledgement. So again, listen, repeat, and agree. The next is positive wording. When speaking during a level 1 conflict resolution, try your best to stay away from negatively connoted words. Using words like threat, harm, hurt, trouble, even in a negated context, leaves energetic psychological imprints in working memory. If you try to calm a person who's in a defensive aggressive state with something like, I meant you no harm, or I don't want any trouble, or I didn't mean to threaten you or hurt you, your statement may only highlight the important words. Selective hearing will filter out insignificant words and emphasize those negative words, even if they're out of context. He might respond with something like, you think you threatened me? You think I'm scared? Again, focused only and triggered by the danger word. Instead, change the wording to positively worded statements like, let's make peace, or I'm just here to have fun and be friendly. You might even directly refer to the needs being threatened, safety and respect, if you feel it's appropriate. Everyone's safe. I respect you. Be positive and let them know they're safe and respected. And whatever you do, don't swear or use foul language. This will certainly escalate the tension. The fourth element, address with respect. Building on the concept of positive wording, we're going to address aggressive defensive individuals with respect, using common or colloquial terms which you would normally use to address friends or family when addressing a stranger during a conflict can often be taken the wrong way. Words like bro, buddy, dude, my friend, my dear can often seem disrespectful and condescending to someone you don't know. You haven't earned the right to call the stranger by such common names. And since a lot of disputes with strangers are again about respect, calling them something that sits with them as disrespectful will probably only worsen the situation. Instead, give them the respect they believe they deserve. Use titles like sir, ma'am, miss, young man. Some neutral or friendly words, if said in the right tone, can be acceptable too, like man or brother, as long as they're said with sincerity. This type of speech again will indicate that you are indeed respecting them. And finally, our last element that we use in acknowledge and support is make a peace offering in a question form. Instead of giving someone negative consequences if they aggress, the don't or else all, at this conflict level, give them positive consequences if they cooperate. Let them know that there's a reward if they calm down. And not only is there a reward their needs getting met, but also you're willing to take an extra step to get back to peace. Make a peace offering and pose it as a question rather than a command. Hey, can I buy you a drink to make things right? Or, hey, do you want to come ahead of me in line here? Make some gesture in the form of a question that indicates peace and kindness and a positive reward for cooperation. If this doesn't work or you can't think of a peace offering, ask him or her what they need and what you could do to help. How can I best help resolve this? What do you need from me to make things right? Get them talking, conversing, so they can start thinking of you as a potential ally rather than a threat. So there are the 5 elements: no blame or accusation, listen, repeat, and agree before explaining, positive wording, address with respect, and make a peace offering in the form of a question. Let's give an example of how this might look. First, we'll go over what not to do, and then we'll do it the right way. Take a look.
Hey man, why are you staring at me?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I know what the fuck I saw. You're fucking staring at me back there. You think I'm stupid?
Hey bro, chill out, calm down.
Hey bro, no, you fucking chill out. You're fucking staring at me.
What the fuck is wrong with you, man? I'm just fucking looking at the game. What the fuck is wrong with you? Get the fuck away from me.
You're fucking punk.
Now, that's definitely the wrong way to diffuse a situation peacefully and calm someone down, if that's my goal. Notice how I used a common name, buddy, which obviously came off as condescending. Notice how I didn't take his concerns or feelings seriously. I just ignored them and basically defended my own position. I told him he was tripping out and asked him what was wrong with him, implying blame and accusation, making him wrong. And I didn't propose a peaceful solution. I just gave a command to go away. This all might work to get the conflict to stop, but it certainly doesn't seem very peaceful, and a defensive aggressive individual is probably not going to take lightly to this kind of defensive response. So let's see an example now of a more correct way to engage in peaceful conflict resolution, taking into consideration the 5 elements of speech we just went over for level 1.
Hey man, why are you staring at me?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was staring at you. I'm sorry if I gave off the wrong impression.
I saw you looking at me right there.
Listen, I can tell you're really angry, and I would be angry too if I thought someone was staring at me, disrespecting me, but I promise I was not intending that. What do you need from me to make things right? Can I do anything? Can I buy you something?
No.
You sure? You're okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Notice how I made the misunderstanding about me and what I might have done, not how he was wrong. I listened to him and acknowledged that he was angry, repeated why he was angry so that he knew I was listening to him, and that I understood why he'd feel like that, trying to get to a place of agreement with him. I called him sir as a sign of respect and used positive language when speaking. And finally, I made a generous gesture as a peaceful offering. And he calmed down, and peace was attained. So if the person's willing to listen and willing to calm down, these resolution techniques are key. Remember, be sincere, be thoughtful, be empathetic, have kindness and generosity as a context. So if the person is willing to listen and willing to calm down, these resolution techniques are key. Remember, be sincere, be thoughtful, be empathetic, have kindness and generosity as a context. You may have to repeat yourself a couple of times in order to calm someone down, depending on their level of reactivity, but if you can see that it's working, that they're indeed calming down, then keep at it and stay calm the whole time. Like I've said before, research is showing that panic and calm are contagious. If you're respectful and kind, that is a very good chance of rubbing off. It's your job to set the tone. Now, I know especially for those of us that train in martial arts and consider ourselves to be somewhat formidable, this type of resolution takes a lot of self-discipline. To not be the tough guy and just be kind when someone else is being aggressive or defensive is a really big thing to ask most people, especially men, and most especially young men. That's why I call this type of work the path of an inner warrior. You really have to be a conscious, humble, peaceful inner warrior to maintain humility and kindness in the face of anger and defensiveness. But if you're opting for a peaceful life, using words and not using your fists whenever possible is always desired. Now, during a level 1 conflict, if all this doesn't work to calm the person down and he or she just can't seem to snap out of their aggression, then ultimately, the best thing to do is just apologize once more and walk away, making sure not to turn your back or lose sight of the person if there's still a potential threat. If the person won't allow you to leave or follows you or just skips this level altogether and proceeds into your safe zone, your personal space, then they've escalated to a level 2 conflict, which we'll learn how to address in the next video. Stay tuned. In the previous video, we learned some conflict resolution techniques to de-escalate a situation with an aggressive stranger. That was dealing with a level 1 conflict, which is still in the talking phase, and it means that the person has not gone into your personal space or crossed personal boundaries yet,